Shadow in the Cloud, Locked Down, The Marksman, Don't Tell a Soul, Our Friend, and Palmer. What do these movies all have in common? Well, they all came out in January of 2021, and I have not yet reviewed them for my channel, so let's do it. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to my January 2021 wrap-up. I know, yes, it's over a year ago now. Why are we even talking about these movies? Well, because I am putting the finishing touches on my 2021 movie list. We're going to do, in a few weeks, the big year-end wrap-up, best and worst of the year, and there are dozens of movies that I have not gotten to review yet. So we're going to sort of do a bunch of these, maybe not one for every month, but January just had a lot that I had not reviewed yet. So January gets its own video, 6 movies deep. We're going to talk just for like 2, 3, 4 minutes about each one. None of these are going to be overly long reviews, like some of my longer form ones that I do, you know, one video for one movie. So we're going to do these in the order of release, starting with one that came out on the first day of the year, January 1st, 2021. You can get this on DVD. It's been talked about in some circles already. The podcast, How Did This Get Made?, which takes a look at pretty bad movies and ponders the question, who greenlit this and why and how. Shadow in the Cloud is our first one. Chloe Grace Moretz stars in this World War II drama / action movie, kind of. She plays Maud, who joins a B-17 bomber all-male crew to transport top-secret documents, and there are a lot of finger-pointing and suspicions among the crew, and there may or may not be some sort of evil on board that they are actually transporting. So I watched this a few months ago. Some of these movies I watched a little more recently. Some I watched, you know, literally 4, 5, 6 months ago, and I just never got around to reviewing them because, you know, who cares at that point. But since we're doing the whole wrap-up, I guess we'll do it. But this movie definitely stuck with me for the few months that I have seen it, but for not the right reasons. I watched this before they did the How Did This Get Made podcast about it, but when that came up, I was like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense, because this movie is a mess. It is a train wreck. It's all over the place with the plot. The effects are horrible, and it's not even very long. It's only 1 hour and 23 minutes, so you'd think they could cram enough of a plot in there, but it doesn't even really do that. The acting here, other than Chloe Grace Moretz, who, you know, I think is having a hard time finding her sweet spot in her 20s. You know, she did the cute girl thing in like Dark Shadows and a lot of her like old movies when she was, you know, 12, 13, 14 years old. And then she started doing some young adult stuff. Okay, sure. Some of those didn't really work either, like The Fifth Wave. But now she's doing a lot of really questionable movies because I think she doesn't quite know where she needs to be, what lane she needs to be in. Is she going to go with this kind of thing and really lean into the sort of cheesy B-movie type things? I hope not, because I thought she had a lot of potential as a kid, but this is rough. I will say that she is the only reason to not fail this movie, because she is doing her best here. She is really giving it her all. But it does make a person wonder, how did this movie get greenlit? Who said this looks good, this sounds good? I don't know if they ran out of money halfway through, so the effects are so bad. This is a turd of a movie. I'm not going to fail it because of Chloe Grace Moretz, because she does give, I mean, she's really trying. She is giving her all here with this silly and questionable material, but I can't give it much higher than that. Shadow in the Cloud gets a D from me. Up next, we're going to talk about Locked Down. This is an HBO Max original film, so you can see it if you have HBO Max. I happened to catch this on a plane over the summer, and Anne Hathaway and Chiwetel Ejiofor are the 2 stars. And this is an interesting one because it is one of the first movies that was entirely written, produced, all of that after COVID-19. Now, COVID-19 also takes a pretty strong plot point in this movie, unlike Malcolm and Marie, which I did review about a year ago, with Zendaya, and I think John David Washington maybe is the man in it. But that was post-COVID. They wrote it, produced all of that stuff and put it out, during the pandemic. And that movie is a lot more simplistic. Two people. It's basically a character study between the two of them. But Locked Down is, a full movie. There's a lot of moving parts here, a lot of different set pieces. Not a lot, but a few, let's say, different set pieces. And it's actually about the COVID-19 pandemic. Basically, these two are a couple, but they are, sort of about to go through a separation. They're not happy with each other. And Paxton, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, is only able to get a job as a delivery truck driver because it's COVID-19 lockdown, so people are losing their jobs. And then Anne Hathaway's character, she is now working at home, but they devise a plan to, okay, well, at some point in the next few weeks, they're going to close down, all of these, jewelry stores and places with a lot of expensive stuff, because if nobody can shop there, well, they don't want somebody just throwing a brick in there and stealing stuff. So they hatched this plan to actually rob a jewelry store with the use of the Paxton character's truck. Look, this movie's not great, but it's not bad either. It's not a bad way to pass a couple of hours' time, and I have to give it credit for being one of the first ones out there to, write, produce, and act and shoot this whole movie under the COVID-19 restrictions, with having the pandemic as a major plot point. Kind of risky because you don't know how in 3 years, 5 years, people are going to think about COVID-19. I mean, we do now because it's been 2 years, but, back when they made this, it had only been a few months. The lockdowns had just kind of started when this movie got made. So it's very, very interesting how well it comes across for how quickly it was made. It was really shuffled together. And I think there's some chemistry here with the two leads because they do seem like a couple that still kind of loves each other, but at the same time is sort of on the outs and not maybe in love as much as they once were. And I bought it from both of them. These are both, talented people. So I like that part of it. And like I said, look, I watched it on a plane. There's plenty of other things to do on a plane these days. I have my phone, I can watch any number of movies, but this one did hold my interest. I will admit I watched it on probably a smaller screen than they anticipated, but it is an HBO Max original, so they have to assume a lot of people are maybe even going to watch it on their phone. So yeah, the visual component of this movie is not outstanding, but I don't think it needs to be. 3 or 4 set pieces, their apartment, the jewelry store, the truck, whatever, and it all kind of worked as much as it needed to. So again, not great, but good enough, I think. I leave Locked Down with a B-. All right, so up next, The Marksman. This is one of the many Liam Neeson movies that were released during the pandemic. I've reviewed a few of them. They just put one out last week. Is it called Blank Slate or something? I don't even know, and I'll see it eventually. Maybe, though, not till my January 2022 wrap-up, or February, whenever it came out. Because I'm not rushing out to see it. Black Light, maybe it's called. I don't know. They're all like the same. They're all Taken 25, Taken 30, whatever. So this one's called The Marksman. And Liam Neeson plays this dude, Jim Hansen. And he lives basically in isolation. But he gets drawn out from his Arizona farm and ranch because he needs to defend this young Mexican immigrant from drug cartel lords that have been dispatched to kill this kid. All right, so this one, of all of these, I may have even seen this one the most recent. I think I just saw this one maybe a month ago. I don't remember hardly anything about it because they're all the same, these movies. Liam Neeson needs to stop with it. I think this new movie has like a 6%, the Black Light or whatever it's called, I think has a 6% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I think people are finally getting sick of this. But even some of the recent ones have been getting like 60%, 65%. The one with the ice trucker, what the heck was that called? The Ice Road or something? I forget. This Mr. Plow? Cold Pursuit, that's what it was. I gave that like a D or a D plus, like so bad. But critics seem to like it. Audiences seem to still love these movies. But I think now maybe we're finally reaching the end of this. This Marksman, I think it did debut at #1 at the box office. But again, this was January 2021. Most theaters were still closed. Very few movies were getting released. So it would make sense that this one would debut at the top. I, of course, waited until it got to DVD. It stinks. It's like all of his other movies. And this particular movie, though, because of the Mexican boy angle, reminded me a little bit of the Clint Eastwood movie Cry Macho that just came out last year. Now, that's based on a book from 20 years ago. So it's not like, Clint is biting Liam Neeson style, but I think that version was done better than whatever this mess is, the old Marksman. Look, there are some interesting action sequences. There's a few that I could get behind, but overall, it's just more of the same. You know, if you love these Neeson movies, this will be one you can get behind. If not, it's a pass. For me, I'll give it a D+. Another pretty bad one in the Pantheon. All right, so next we get to Don't Tell a Soul. This is one that was not produced during the pandemic, but it certainly could have been because it's very, very sort of honed in. It's got maybe 2 or 3 sets. One of them is outdoors in the forest, and the other one is at the home of these kids. And I wouldn't have been surprised if you told me it was produced during the pandemic, but it wasn't. It actually was produced before the pandemic started. But Alex Macaulay directed this. It's his directorial debut, and it is a thriller starring Rainn Wilson from The Office and many other things, The Rocker among them, of course. He is a security guard here who gets trapped in a big hole in the ground chasing after 2 teens who were stealing, and they're played by Jack Dylan Grazer and Fionn Whitehead. And Jack Dylan Grazer is the kid from Stranger Things. I think he was the one from Shazam as well, if I'm not mistaken. But Mina Suvari from the old, late 90s movies, she plays their mother. But basically, these kids have to decide what they're going to do about this guy. Do they let him just stay down there to die? And they end up getting in a fight with each other about what exactly to do with this man. Because he is, a security guard, so he's going to bust him and send him over to the cops for stealing in the first place. So a lot of moral dilemmas here. On the surface, this seemed like a really stupid thriller. Again, this is another pretty quick one. What is this? An hour and 23, same length as Shadow in the Cloud. And they actually dragged out a pretty interesting story. Now, the home life stuff is pretty basic. The mom stinks and, she abuses her kids and all of this kind of thing. Okay, we've seen that before. But the stuff with Rainn Wilson and the teen boys is actually quite compelling. I was surprised because it seemed so basic on the surface. And I think the movie is kind of basic in the premise, but it does take a few twists along the way that I thought were actually kind of well done. Now, it is simple, so it doesn't get a ton of points for, maybe if it had an extra 15 minutes, we could have fleshed out a few more things, whatever. But I have to give it, the twists were pretty solid in this. There's, one in particular about halfway through the movie that just changes the game entirely. And then you don't quite know exactly who you're even rooting for anymore. It's an interesting twist in a pretty simple story. So the acting is good here. Rainn Wilson, I really have enjoyed his post-office stuff. I think he's made some interesting choices. And here again, this could have been like A Shadow in the Cloud. It could have been kind of a B movie, kind of a silly, actioner, or drama or whatever. But the performances here, and again, Mina Suvari's mother, I don't think they gave her enough to work with, so I don't think it's necessarily her fault. She's certainly, the weakest character here, but both the guys have something to sort of prove to each other, the brothers, and then the Rainn Wilson character. So I actually enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I was going to. I thought it was going to be. I watched Shadow in the Cloud first, and I watched this one the next day, and I really thought, oh, this is going to be more of the same. It was not. So I'm going to leave the Don't Tell a Soul with a B minus. It's not bad. All right, so finally we close with two streaming films. Our Friend is available on Amazon Prime. This is a Prime original, and this is based on a true story about this couple who received some very, very bad news that, let's just say, I don't want to do too many spoilers here, but it happens pretty early in the movie. Let's just say one of them gets a diagnosis, of this horrible cancer, and they may not make it so long. So this is the couple is played by Dakota Johnson and Casey Affleck, and then Jason Segel comes in, and he is their best friend, and he basically puts his life on hold entirely, moves into their house to help take care of the kids, and they all sort of, form a closer friendship because of it, and they end up getting a real lifelong friend out of it, and to see the real people involved in this during the end credits, I'm getting a little bit choked up thinking about it. This is a beautiful story. It really, really is. It's so touching and heartwarming, and it's so real. I not sure if I knew. I can't remember because like I said, I've watched most of these a couple of months ago, but I can't remember if I knew going into it was a true story. I try not to know too many things. So I may not have known until they put that credit sequence up, but it's so touching and heartwarming. And, this is one of the first things Jason Segel has done in years. For a while, he just sort of got out of acting. I don't know exactly what he was doing, maybe raising a family. I really don't know. But he did that AMC show, Dispatches from Elsewhere, in, I want to say, early 2020. But that was the first time we had seen him in about 4 years, and this is his first film in about 5 years. And I missed him. I have to admit, I'm a Jason Segel fan. Casey Affleck, I go back and forth on. Dakota Johnson, I think, is actually quite underrated. And everybody here is really giving a good performance. It is a heartwarming tale, and it's got some humor to it as well, as you might expect with something that's based on a true story, based on friendship. So you see the camaraderie sort of growing with these people. And, there's some fighting, of course, that takes place as well. And, oh, I put my life on hold for you people, and we never asked you to, that kind of thing. But through it all, the realness shone through on this movie, and great performances as well. It's a little long, at about 2 hours and 5 minutes. They could have trimmed maybe some of that, because it does start to get a little bit repetitive with some of the stuff going on. But really, really nice acting showcase for all three of these people. So I'm going to leave Our Friend with an A minus. Then finally, over on Apple TV Plus, we've got Palmer. This came out, I think, the very last day of January 2021. But this is an Apple TV Plus original, so that's the only place you can see it. And this has to do with Timberlake's character being an ex-con who strikes up a friendship with a boy who is perhaps questioning his gender and his sexuality, and he comes from a pretty troubled home. He has a deadbeat mother, who is played by Juno Temple, who, of course, Apple TV Plus, home of Ted Lasso. We've all been enjoying her on that. But this is quite a different character for her, the strung-out mother. And Timberlake, it's interesting because his movie career, I think, has been pretty wild. The first time I remember hearing about him in a movie, I think might have been Alpha Dog, which was at this point maybe 15 years ago. But, he's done a little bit of everything. He's done some drama, some action movies, sci-fi. In Time is a pretty cool movie. And then, of course, the Troll movie. So he does some voice animated work as well. The only thing he really hasn't done, I guess, is broad comedy. But he did that romantic comedy. Was he in Friends with Benefits, or was it the other one? I think it was Friends with Benefits he was in. So, he's done a little bit of everything. And this is a story, I think, unlike anything that he has done before. But there have been a few tales this year, both movies and television, of, ex-cons going back out into the real world. The Sandra Bullock one that just dropped on Netflix not too long ago, The Unforgivable, I think it was called. It tells sort of a tale like this too, because it's hard for a convict to assimilate back into society. And we see that here. He takes to this little boy immediately. The little boy takes to him. But, there's, of course, all of these issues surrounding, who even has custody of this kid. Technically, maybe it's the mom, but she's strung out and all of this. And we also have the grandmother here, played by the great June Squibb, the Oscar-nominated June Squibb. And this turns out to be another really good acting showcase. Juno Temple, she's not in it that much. She's only maybe in 3, 4, 5 scenes. But, the screaming about, give me back my son and this and that and the other thing, and calling the cops on him. She has a few scenes to really shine here, and she does it. And Timberlake, for what I've said, he usually pulls off these roles, and this is something a little different for him. I do actually think this is a little bit of a critique. I think they could have perhaps made him a little bit more of sort of a tough guy. He's a little bit of a pretty boy still. He's still Justin Timberlake. Some of these other roles that he's had, I really did believe, okay, he is this other person, or, not that he's a Tom Hanks or anything, but I believe that, okay, he maybe isn't just Justin Timberlake doing Justin Timberlake. This is sort of like Justin Timberlake out of jail. He doesn't put a lot of nuance into it that I think some of these other movies that I've been thinking about, the Sandra Bullock one included, that some of those actors have sort of put forth in their performance. It is all on the page. The script is pretty solid here, but I will say, not that he's a weak link. I think he does a good job. And this little kid, the chemistry with him and Timberlake is great. But Juno Temple, I think her performance, as she steals, every scene she's in. But this was another pretty strong drama, much like Our Friend. This one doesn't have quite the little drips of comedy that one did. This is more straight ahead, heart-wrenching drama. But still a good watch. So I leave Palmer with a B+. All right, so that's it. We did, 6 movies in under 25 minutes. I told you these would be pretty quick reviews. So we're going to do these every, week maybe until the Oscars. That's always where I sort of do my cutoff of, all right, I'm not going to review any other movies from that particular year. We move on to the current year. And I've already been reviewing a lot of 2022 movies as well, that you can see on my channel. But I will do several more of these videos. I've already watched a couple of the February movies I need to see for the February and March editions of the 2021 wrap-up. But thank you for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.